let's just talk about this condo thing. I don't care what you buy. If you're in your 20s, buy as much as you possibly can. I told this to a younger guy, but how do we get the money, Randy? How do we structure the financing? I said, I don't care. Talk to your mortgage broker, build your team. I don't care what you buy.
Yeah, by hook or by crook.
Buy as much as you possibly can in your 20s and your 30s, and you're on the right track.
Welcome to Real Talk with Gary. If you are listening to this show, that means you are either searching or ready to make a financial change in your life. This show is not only about real estate investing, but also the importance of mindset and the roadmap to a better, healthier life. Learn the daily routines of successful entrepreneurs and the latest market strategies and trends to stay ahead of the curve. Ready for some down-to-earth, north-of-the-border Canadian talk? Here's your host, Gary Hibbert.
All right, welcome back. And today I've got Randy Ramadhin. He is a professional real estate investor with over 23 years actively brokering real estate and mortgage transactions. And he's also a good friend of mine. He's the author of Investing in Condominium Strategies, Tips, and Expert Advice for the Canadian Real Estate Investor. He's also been on the chair of the Condominium Committee at Build, founding president and board member of Condo Corporations, and he also appeared on CBC where he was interviewed by Kevin O'Leary. Great interview. I'm actually going to put the link in the show notes. And so listen, he knows a thing or two about condos, and that's one of the reasons why I have him on the show today. And so we really dive into the steps to buying a condo, the current state of the condo market, which a lot of people are definitely interested in. Condo assignments, how do they work? Where can you advertise them? Can you advertise them? Some of the pitfalls to avoid. And then who are some of the top condo developers in the city if this is still an investing strategy that you want to implement? Very good podcast. We actually dive into some articles as well to give you some updates and our personal insights in regards to what is currently happening. So I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one. I know I definitely did. And I also had Christopher Hummel as a co-host on this. Now, one of the things that I've been asked about lately is, Gary, where should I invest next? And I still believe that the Peterborough market is a great area. I also feel very strongly about Durham as well too. But if you've been following me on social media or even Instagram, I've recently sold one of my properties. And so one of the areas that I'm actually taking a look at right now is Toronto, believe it or not. Here is why. Now, Bill 23, if I'm paying attention, that's been a big thing in the news. And essentially what it's allowing you to do in Toronto is to be able to create 5 additional units, well, 5 units in total, we'll say, with no additional parking required. So we've started doing some property tours down there. We did one not too long ago, and I can tell you this, the people, the investors, they love it. Some great opportunities down there. And so if you want to learn more about that, I suggest you go to smarthomechoice.ca. Just take a look at the events that we have. You click on somewhere up at the top right. Just click on events, and it'll show you all the events that we have happening. Now, again, you know, we are going on our summer hiatus, so the tours in Toronto, that'll start back up again in September. But listen, there's some great opportunities in Toronto now, and I'll finish it up with just kind of saying this: is that, you know, nobody would ever go to Manhattan and say, this is unfair. Why can't I buy a property in Manhattan, right? If you missed a boat, you missed a boat. And I think this is where we're potentially moving to purchase a property, whether it be for your own use or an investment property. I think that's what's happening in Toronto. And I think 10 years from now, people are going to be like, man, I had that opportunity to purchase a property and I missed it. So that's where I'm looking at. Whether I do or I don't, we'll see. And don't forget, if you are enjoying the show, please leave a review. It really helps other people find it. Also, if you're enjoying listening to the show on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you're listening to it, Don't forget, you can also check me out on YouTube as well, too. We'll put a link in the show notes for that. And then if you would like some mentorship, one-on-one with myself and my wife, we're starting back up again in September, and we'd be more than happy to help you with that. We've got a few spots left. You can go to garyhibbert.ca. And with that, I am done talking. Enjoy this awesome podcast that we did with Randy Ramadhin. And I will talk to you guys next week. Take care. Today's show is brought to you by McMurter and Associates. McMurter and Associates is a real estate and estate law firm who can be your legal partner for every major event in your life. If you're planning your estate, selling or buying a home or an investment property, they can definitely help. With over 30 years of experience, the firm's objective is to prevent you from worrying about the legal aspects of your transaction. From the beginning, McMurter and Associates will provide you with straightforward legal advice and a no surprises policy where you won't be hit with a legal bill you did not expect. All right, we're ready to rock and roll. Randy Ramadhin in the studio. How you doing, brother? And Mr. Christopher Hummel as well, too.
Yes, hey guys.
All right.
I'm amazing, guys. I'm really honored to be here, and it's a beautiful day. Thank you for having me.
It is really nice. I can't believe, well, I don't know if I want to date this or not, but either way, it's hot, man, over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's never like this.
I can take the sun every day. I love it.
Yeah. No, listen, I'm with you, son. I love it. I love the sun. But I don't remember it being like this. And every year, it seems like it's just the weather's getting crazier.
Global warming.
More wind, more heavier rains. I mean, we see it all over the world. Where we are, we don't see all of that mayhem and destruction like the rest of the world, thankfully. But I mean, you certainly do see it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. So, Randy, what's been happening with you? I mean, like I said before, we had to, well, it's the second time we're starting this back up. But anyways, you're a lot more on social media again, and it sounds like real estate investing has allowed you to have the opportunity to spend that time with your beautiful wife and your kids. And now you're back on the scene again. I'm seeing you all over.
Absolutely, Gary. Real estate is such a blessing to me, being in this industry and affording bricks and having tenants pay for those bricks has given me the flexibility to chase my dreams and achieve them, and to be around and provide sun and water for my beautiful children to let them grow. And they're growing to the point now where daddy doesn't necessarily have to drop them off to school every morning and pick them up from school every day. So it's given me some time to get back in the mix, meet with my colleagues, roll up my sleeves, start meeting people, doing deals. This is what I've been doing for 24 years.
Right. Yeah. Look, I used to see you at a lot of the events and doing public speaking. And I remember you did a sit down. I can't remember what show it was with BNN with Kevin O'Leary. Do you remember that, Chris?
No, I don't.
Yeah. And he was talking about, I think you were promoting your book.
Wait a second. Hold on. Randy Big Time?
Yeah.
Randy's Big Time. Call you Big Time Randy. That's
Thank
you now.
you, sir.
Big Time Randy.
Call me Big Time Randy.
All right.
Investing in condos was one of those changes in your life where there's an inflection in how I looked upon myself, my contribution to the industry. And it was an amazing turning point in becoming an author. I have a legacy asset now that my kids can see.
Sure.
Dad wrote a book.
Okay, yeah.
And I argued with Kevin O'Leary on national television.
Yes, you did. You did. Well, I think if I remember now, his position was that the condos cannot continue to keep going at the rate that they were going. And I think you were arguing saying they are and why they're still a great investment. That was back, in 2015, do you think?
So, Gary, this is a guy that manages $1 billion fund, okay?
Yeah.
And when you talk with a guy like that, he'll crush you like a cockroach on national television. So I went into this studio thinking, okay, guys, we got to be prepared. So the first question he asked us was, Randy, why does anyone want to buy these cockroach motels in the sky? That's how he positioned
You remember that line, don't you?
I'll never forget it because it hit me like a ton of bricks. But you know what? I was prepared. So just like anyone in our industry, anyone who is an achiever, we're preparing. So we went into the interview prepared with stock market indice data, oil data, gold data, valuations over 15 years. And during the interview, we slowly changed Kevin O'Leary's mind. And at the end of the interview, he said, Randy, I guess Toronto condos are a good investment. which completely blew everybody away.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
That was pretty
So
good.
yeah, you convinced him.
I did. And he opened up O'Leary Mortgages, started speaking on the investment show. He was at the multifamily conference this weekend. So the whole world of real
Was
estate.
he there this weekend? Or,
Yeah,
I know he was a keynote speaker last year. Okay, I didn't know he was there this year.
Well, I thought he was there this year.
No, I think it was last year.
Oh, was it
No,
last
Grant
year?
Cardone.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Grant Cardone was there this year.
And Grant's the real deal.
Yes.
That guy is amazing. The
Yeah.
king of raising money, the king of bricks for money, and the king of no excuses.
Right.
I love that guy.
So let's talk a little bit more about your past, your history, who you are. And then I want to kind of dive into the whole condo market, what's been happening with it over the last, we'll say, year or so.
Oh,
and whether or not they're still a good investment.
I'm so interested.
Yeah.
I am so interested.
Yeah, we got lots to talk about and assignments, and it's going to be a great talk. All right, so let people know who you are and why you're somebody that can actually talk about this particular subject.
My parents came from Guyana and Trinidad. I'm first generation Canadian, and I grew up in downtown Toronto. And academically, I was the guy that knew it all. I hit the books hard. I was featured in the Toronto Sun in 1993 as a top graduate in the city of Toronto. There was a film that got a Governor General's Award in 1993 featuring me among 3 other graduates. It was called Yes, I Can, and it got a Governor General's Award featuring students of color breaking racial and financial barriers to get into higher education. So I got a full scholarship at the University of Toronto into the engineering science program, and I excelled really well academically. So when it came to books and studying and whatnot, I was the guy.
Wow. So you've been big time Randy.
Well, I mean,
Jeez.
but this is from a guy who was a stutterer. Who
Okay,
never
really,
spoke
huh?
to
Okay.
anybody growing up. I was an extreme stutterer.
Now is that kind of what kept you in the books?
Absolutely. Right.
Right.
I think whatever God gives us as an inability creates abilities.
Isn't that crazy?
So-
I 100% believe that. I've talked about that before because and Chris always had a hard time with this when I tell him this, like, I hated public speaking. And you're like, what do you mean? I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, it was my weakness. I absolutely hated it, but I just kept leaning into it. And I think that's what you're saying, right? You just leaned into what you believe was your weakness to make it your strength.
100%. So our weaknesses and our strengths,
Yeah.
our weaknesses and our challenges, believe it or not, have built us. And I've now become grateful for the challenges that I've had.
Right.
I grew up in a broken home where we had challenges from a very young age. My mother was on social assistance, and she would come on with bags of really great goodies every Christmas. I didn't realize it, but she was going to the food bank.
Right.
So I grew up really grateful for these beautiful things that my country has given me the opportunity to strive and excel and build. And now I'm a winning success story. At the age of 34, Rogers Television created a film about me. I've created a TV commercial featuring me from this film that I made when I was 17 as a success story in Canada. It was for Black History Month. And in that TV commercial, it said, people like me, I can watch them on television because we matter. So I'm really proud of that fact. I'm a winning success story, and everyone's got a shot in this beautiful country, Canada.
Yeah,
All right. Okay.
I agree.
Now, how the whole condominium thing came about, it was completely by fluke. I was talented and smart. I spotted an opportunity in pre-construction. I became a VIP broker with Concord City Place, and that led me on to being one of the fastest online marketers for pre-construction condos when no one believed in it back then. We're talking 2005, 2006, 2007.
So you started back then.
I started back then
That's
when
crazy.
Brad Lamb had these posters up of him on a lamb, and everyone was making fun of him.
right.
They didn't know who this guy was. So I started back then, and I just took this ride in pre-construction, and it's worked out really, really well for me. And the book deal was a complete fluke. Being someone who was passionate about real estate, someone who's well educated and well read, who could communicate a vision and come up with the book, who did really great sales. I got the book deal, and I got the book deal from Wiley Publishing, and that got me on a much larger stage.
Okay, so let's talk about. I want to switch speeds here now, and I want to get into like the steps to buying a condo. So somebody's interested, they want to know, how do I buy a condo? Let's kind of just walk through that. Like, where do they look? What does that down payment structure look like? The length of time it takes to build typically. Like let's go through some of that.
Okay, Gary. So I know most people don't wake up in the morning and say, I want to own a condo. I think they say, I want to own a home.
Sure.
So if we're in the providing roof business where we put shelter over our heads and we want to take our family into their first home, provide a safe, clean place to live, we want to buy a home. Now, the condominium story developed because when homes were $600,000 in 2006, that was a big deal.
Yes.
They were expensive. To get a bungalow in Toronto for $600,000, that was a lot of money. But guess what? You could have buy a condo for 2 bedrooms at $250,000.
Right. Yeah.
Can you imagine that? So for someone who is a first generation Canadian, someone that's new to the country, where you want to stop paying rent and buying your first place, a home wasn't an option. But you didn't want to have the 1 hour commute out to Brampton, because Brampton was all farm fields. Oshawa was all farm fields. Highways were not where they were. You had to commute an hour and a half. So if you wanted to be in the city and make it work, the only way you could afford to buy something was to buy a condo.
Right.
So that's how the condo started. The condo story started. It was the first timers' opportunity to buy their first place. It was an opportunity for downsizers to be able to buy something smaller. So I think that's why condos make sense.
Right.
And at the time, though, they weren't really investments, right? At the time, maybe to some, but for the most part, it was, like you said, just a home, right? People couldn't afford it.
Well, for me, when I got into it in 1997. I bought my condo for $120,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that was my home, right? So I wasn't even thinking about investment. I was just looking for a place to put my head and to raise my family.
Right.
Right. But back then, I thought that was stretching my limits as well too. Right. I was only making like 20-something thousand a year. My wife was making 20-something thousand a year. But that's what we could afford.
Yeah.
It's the first timer story, and condos were always that first opportunity to get in the market. And there's this whole financialization in real estate now, where it's now become an investment class. So this is where investment condominiums have completely taken off to a different stratosphere.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what about the down payment structure? How does that work?
Well,
typically, like, do they have different ones? Where you get 20% down? Can you do 10% down?
Well, obviously with CMHC, they're the Canadian Mortgage Housing Corporation. It's allowed first-time buyers to buy under $500,000 with as small as 5% down.
Okay.
And that's been an amazing opportunity for anyone to buy their first home. Now, tell me, what can you really buy in Toronto for $500,000 now?
Today, no.
It's a bachelor condo.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're lucky to get actually one bachelor, if you get in.
What's
But
the
believe it or not,
smallest that they can do now?
They're somewhere around 300 square feet now for bachelors.
I thought, though, wasn't there a time when where some of the banks were not insuring them, not even insuring them,
I
but
think
loaning,
that's still the same.
where they won't loan?
Yeah, well, Quentin was just telling me about that the other day. Well, I don't know, maybe he was telling you the same thing.
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, he said he was doing some deal, and then the lender said no because it was too small. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There was that time. That is going to change if it hasn't already. Lenders see condos as liquid. Lenders are looking at whether or not they can take back that property and actually resell it. They're going to resell it.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, what about home inspections? Do people do typical home inspections on condos, or is it, what's it called again? Pre-delivery inspection? And what's the difference?
Really great question, Gary. So just the fact that we have Terry on warranty and most builders have really great customer service, I tell buyers within that first 5 years, you're doing the home inspection because it's your comfort. So when you take a look at insurance and comfort, that home inspection for $250, $350, best investment you can make in knowing that what you bought, you feel comfortable with. So I tell first-time buyers, best insurance you could ever have.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. You let them know. Go ahead and do the inspection.
Absolutely. Do it.
Okay.
Because when you take a look at what you are, what is covered under your condo insurance policy, everyone who buys a condo pays into a common elements policy. That's
Right.
part of their maintenance fee. People don't realize that's just for the standard unit definition and the common elements in the hallway. So everything from that drywall and back, the kitchen counters, the floors, the light fixtures, everything else is not covered. That's yours. You got to deal with it.
All right.
What about the cooling off period? There was actually an article that came out as well too out in BC where they now have 3 days for cooling off, right? When you purchase a home. Now, I believe that's for resale homes that they've introduced that for. Did they have that for condos? They've always had that for condos, didn't they? I shouldn't say always, but they've had it for a very long time.
It's mandatory cooling off is 10 days in Ontario.
Okay, for new.
For pre-construction condos, correct. Now, what you're talking about is what's happened in Vancouver, where they're actually passing mandatory cooling off periods, even for resale. So firm can't happen anymore in Vancouver. They're working on mandatory cooling off periods.
What are your thoughts on that? And do you think that'll happen here in Ontario?
That's an interesting question, because the fact that an offer is firm from a seller's perspective, I've got a real buyer. They're not backing out. We're selling it tonight. It's a done deal. But from a consumer protection standpoint of view, buyers need to make the right decisions. And I'm one of those agents that insist to my buyers, especially if they're first timers, you better get an inspection and you better get a mortgage commitment. This mortgage commitment thing where realtors are forcing people to go in with waiving that condition without dotting their I's and crossing their T's, realtors need to take some of the backlash to that, because they're pushing these things, and do they realize what they're committing their clients to?
Yeah. What do you think, Chris?
Well, I'm thinking about the 3-day period. What do you call it? The cooling off period in BC. But I think there was some restrictions to that. I think it wasn't that you could just walk away. I think there were some real restrictions on that. And I don't have the article in front of me, but I remember reading it some time ago. And it wasn't just, okay, no, we don't like it because, I don't know, I don't like the paint color anymore.
Got it.
Take off, we're gone. I think there was some real restriction with that, because at the end of the day, it is, it is still a legal binding agreement.
Absolutely.
So there's something involved there. I can't remember what it is, but I do agree with you as far as the whole firm thing. It's really tough, Now, listen, let's be honest. If your client is insistent and you have done the back end work, because as an agent, we really should be in control of the deal, right? I know for us anyways, we really try to control what's happening, and we really, at least I insist on meeting the mortgage broker on all of my deals. I insist. I don't care if it's the bank. I don't care if it's a broker that I'm not familiar with. Hey, just let me pick up the phone. Let me say hello. Let's just have a chat. Why? Because we're on the same team anyways, right? And I want him or her, whatever, to know me. And I want them, I need to know them. And guess what? Who's to say we're not going to do another deal together? You like meeting people. I love meeting people. Absolutely. And it's the same thing. So now not only am I making a connection, I'm controlling the deal. And I already know what they can and can't do approved for. So
I just jumped into the article here. So it says the province says, go ahead, Randy.
Chris, I'm glad you said that, because in our business, there are transactional agents and then there are fiduciary agents.
You're right.
You are a fiduciary. That's what I am. I fight fiercely for my clients' rights.
Right. And
for me, it's the lifetime of the opportunity to see that family or that person grow and build their wealth. It's not just one deal. So I'm glad you actually said
100%. And especially the business that we're in, myself, Chris, and Quentin, like we're working with our clients for years, potentially probably even decades. This is not just a one transaction for us. Some of our clients are doing 5, 6, 7, 10 multiple transactions.
Right. So that's probably what it boils down to. Without, honestly, you're right. Without even thinking about it, I never really thought of a transactional and just do the deal. So I guess just as a result of the business, I guess it's why that's my style. I never even thought about it, to be honest.
And I jumped into the article here. So in regards to the penalty that you were talking about, it says the province says buyers who back out of a sale within the 3-day period will be hit with a cancellation fee of $250,000 for every $100,000 of a home's purchase price to ensure transactions are taken seriously.
Oh,
so $250 for every $100,000.
$250. Okay,
I see.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So now you bought something. You bought something for $1 million, right? So that's 250 times 10, right? So 2,500.
Yeah.
It's not a lot to walk away, but I mean, it's something.
It's enough to.
It's an incentive,
right? Yeah, it's a vacation.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
For one person.
Maybe.
All right, cool. And then anything else on that? Just on how to purchase a home, the down payment, cooling off period.
Hold on.
Yeah.
What about will this come here to Ontario? That's the 3-day cooling off period, with some type of a little penalty.
That's a great question. I was just at a pre-construction launch, just to give you an insight into what's happening in Ontario. I was at a pre-construction launch in Oshawa for a major home builder, and they were still insisting that clients do firm agreements of purchase and sale at the sales office that Saturday.
Okay.
And I told my clients straight up, we're not doing this deal. They're like, Randy, but what if I'm interested? And which happened? They weren't. I said, I refuse to let you get in that situation right now. Never mind, I'm going to make this commission, but to put you under the fire, well, I know your position. You're not prepared. You're just here to see the opportunity. You didn't talk to your broker. I didn't have that pre-approval in my hand. I know how the banks look at you. We need to make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's, because this is what put a lot of investors in hot water in the condominium market.
100%.
Is that kind of mentality.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you 100%. So let's dive into that then.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the state of the condo market. There's a couple articles I do want to jump into. So the first one here is a surge in new condo occupancy presents assignment sales opportunities. Let's touch on assignment sales. What does that mean? And why are so many, whether it be families or investors, that are in this particular situation?
Basically, Gary, an assignment sale or an assignment contract, the opportunity is to buy someone else's contract.
Right.
So it's an opportunity to flip someone's ability they have purchased from a builder 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and selling that contract today is an assignment of that contract. Now, it's a whole new industry because there's been a pre-construction boom in the GTA. A lot of these contracts are floating, and because of COVID, construction timelines have been doubled. I just posted on Facebook. I was at the launch of Nobu in Toronto on Mercer 6 years ago, and they still have not delivered.
Wow.
Really?
So we're on our 7th year of potential deliveries happening in the next 7 months, in the next 12 months. So buyers who bought expecting to occupy in 2021, 2022 are still waiting. So sometimes they really have say, listen, I can't wait. My kids are now 15. They're not like 12 and 12. I need to go and buy a house now. Sorry, we have to flip this contract and go and buy the house.
So we know what the assignments are. Assignment is effectively flipping the contract, right?
That's it.
Effectively.
Flipping the contract, selling the contract.
From
a seller's point of view.
I paid on the contract $600,000 and I can't wait anymore. So I'm going to sell it to you for $650,000.
You got it.
Right? Yeah, something like that, right? Or I can't wait anymore and I'm going to sell it to you for $550,000. Does that happen?
I'm having a lot of conversations as of late about this. So if you bought 5 years ago, your contract's got profit. Let's just be real about it. That's long enough.
True.
The market's gone up enough. Your contract has profit. You're not going to sell it at a loss.
Right.
How you structure that profit and when you get that and how you structure how deposits are going to be held from the assignee's point of view, that's where the lawyers come in. Now, if you bought in the last 18 months, the last 24 months, not only are people having to sell for zero profit,
right,
meaning they're selling it for exactly what they bought it for, some people are having to dip into their pockets and give up some of their deposits. So they're not giving up real cash that's to actually make this deal work. This is deposits being held by the builder.
Right.
They're giving up to make that deal work right now.
Or now can they walk away? You got my deposit,
Builders have always said this. If you do not close or follow through with your commitment, we're going to sue you.
Okay.
Now, over the last 5 to 7 years, when they sold you something for $500 and it's worth $750 and you're walking away from that $500,000 contract, is the builder really upset by you walking away from a place that you bought for $500? No. Not only will the builder take your deposit of $50,000 to $100,000, they're going to resell it for $750 and they're sitting on profit. So the builder's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
But we're in a market now where some things are possibly less than what you paid for it 18 months ago, and the builders have the legal right to pursue you for that loss. Undeniable.
So then, okay, let's talk about it from the seller standpoint. So the person now who bought this condo in the last, say, 18 months, it's lower than what they purchased it for.
Yes.
What are some of their options? How do they potentially either offload this property if they just want to get out of this deal? Because you can't put this you can't put this assignment on MLS.
Well, let's talk about that. How do we market these assignments? So builders have traditionally put in their restrictions on how you can market an assignment. Now, most contracts come with what's called an assignment clause saying you can assign with builder permission. But marketing that assignment, builders have always put in there saying you cannot list it on the MLS without our permission. If you do, you can risk you buying it.
Right.
And we'll take the unit from you. You'll risk financial penalties of thousands of dollars. So within the assignment community, the brokers have been the people talking and sharing. It's typically been a tight-knit group. Now, there have been some builders that will police these broker networks and find their units in their buildings and pursue people that have been trying to assign their contracts and threaten legal action against them. Why? If you think it from the builder's point of view, the builder needs to protect the integrity of their buildings.
Right.
They need to protect the fact that they haven't sold to a certain level. There's a threshold. So typically past 70%, 75%, when the builder has sold, their construction financing is approved. The builder will then allow assignments and make that happen. But if they're at 65% sold and someone is competing directly with the builder, possibly selling it less than what the builder is doing, affects the value of all the other 100 buyers that bought, he's going to pursue that person and say, you should not be actually marketing that, only to your friends and family.
Right.
Take it off the MLS. So there's a lot of interesting techniques and strategies that realtors have been doing. I don't know if you've seen this, where they're not allowed to market it. Realtors have been known to list and terminate within 24 hours. So there are signals on the MLS.
I've seen that.
There are signaling. So what's really interesting from a buyer and investor's point of view, I watch that signaling. That signaling tells me prices, tells me agents, and I call that agent up 6 to 12 to 18 months later and say, you still have that deal? They say, sure, let's talk. So they're sending up red flags using MLS, which is the most powerful marketing tool in this country.
Right.
Hold on a second. So that's illegal or illegal?
That is not legal.
Okay, but they just throw it out there and get rid of it.
Bingo.
Got it.
So the instructor agent, and the agent knows this, and the agent knows that they have a client that's motivated. The agent wants to get the best marketing.
Yeah.
They will list it and terminate it.
Yeah. So it's
strategy.
still sitting there.
So this is one of the tricks, right?
That's interesting.
So I actually look at these smoke signals. These are smoke signals up in there, right? There's a lot of signaling in our business as realtors. That business of being able to advise our clients, we must look at signaling. When it comes to financing and interest rates, we talk with our mortgage brokers. They tell us where the rates are going, where the opportunities are. Right now, the really big trends are new immigrants, work permit financing, PR financing. If we're not looking into these things, how can we advise our clients on deals? When it comes to pre-construction, signaling is important. Driving by the site, concrete's being poured, construction crews doing work or not doing working. We want to get a sense.
Right.
And they're telling their clients, yeah, you can occupy in 6 months. No way. Forget that.
Now, I'm pretty sure I've seen some websites out there where you can actually go and register to now be on a list of assignments.
Oh, well, we get those all day, don't we?
So is that legal or is that illegal as well too?
They're not supposed to. But what these websites say, and they always say this, we do not take any of the legal liability of these advertisements. We're simply an opportunity for a closed network of professionals to share their deals. The reality is Facebook has become an amazing source for these types of deals to be actually shared. So it's becoming tougher and tougher for builders to police these networks.
Yeah.
But the opportunities are out there to get these deals.
Right. So now these builders probably have people out there signing up for all of these different websites to see if any of their condos potentially are on that.
100%. And if you own a pre-construction condo that you bought 5, 6, 7 years ago, and you want to make a profit and post it on these sites, beware that you're risking that profit.
Right. Because the
builder has a clause in their offer typically saying we can rescind your contract. and maybe punitive damages, take your deposit if we find you marketing your deal.
Right, marketing.
So when you say now you can, however, you can get it into your close network of friends and family, you're saying now individually reaching out or calling people and saying, hey, do you want to buy this condo? I have a condo.
That's the intent of those clauses, is friends and family and people that you know.
Right. Got it. Okay. Who pays the HST on the assignment? So let's say now I am able to find somebody who I can assign this condo to. Who pays the HST on it?
HST is a loaded question. It's something that I always advise my clients to talk with their lawyers about, but let's talk about this very complex topic. So typically when you buy and sell a resale home, HST, there is none.
Right.
There's no paying any kind of HST. Except when you're buying properties that have appliances and they have a certain size, shadows and HST apply. But that's something for bigger deals. Now, when you're buying any kind of pre-construction property, there's always HST. Now, the boilerplate clauses in these brand new contracts state, the builder states, you agree you're buying this property to own or occupy, therefore we will claim your HST rebate for you, and there's no added HST to your actual contract of sale. That's in every pre-construction boilerplate contract. Now, if you buy that property as an investment property and declare to the builder upfront when you're buying that contract of sale, when you're buying that pre-construction property, you're going to be, the builder typically states, you acknowledge at closing, HST is your actual closing cost.
Right.
Now, the question is, what if your intent was to occupy that condo when you bought it 6 years ago? And now you want to assign that contract? Well, according to CRA, under the guise of the act, your intent was to buy it, to occupy and be an owner. You shouldn't pay HST. But the rules have become really different here. This is where intention matters, interpretation of the Income Tax Act and whatnot. And the government has clamped down on this. They've recently implemented brand new rules regarding capital gains tax. Saying, and this has become punitive for assigners. People don't realize this. As of January 1st, 2023, if you are assigning your pre-construction contract, did you know that your profit cannot be capital gains anymore?
100% business, right? We had
talking so it's active now.
Yeah,
it's now 100% taxable. So therefore, this profit that you thought you were making, that you only have to pay half of it of tax, it's all of it is now taxable. So it's huge implications for the assignor. So so I'm telling people, do whatever it takes to close. Even if you have to pay that 18% private money. You know why? That tax bill that you're going to pay is going to eat up all your profit. You might as well just close on it.
Right. And then probably on top of there as well, too, there's probably an assignment fee as well.
The assignment fees have typically been small fees, $2,500, $5,000, $7,000.
Okay.
You're looking at profits of six figures.
Right.
It's just the cost of doing business. And it's the builder's way of recovering their cost of the paperwork to get their staff to get that actually done.
Okay. And then what about then on the buyer side? What do I need to be aware of?
Right now in this market, there's a tremendous opportunity to buy with your realtor's help. And people think, I can go buy these brand new things and these floating contracts without a realtor. With your realtor's help, something that's not on the MLS. So we've been talking about lack of listing inventory for the last 12 months.
Yeah.
There's this other market, and it used to be 10% of the market. If you want to buy in Toronto, I think it's upwards of 40% of the market. It's this shadow market there that's not on the MLS. Huge opportunity to buy something that's not on the MLS. There's a whole new inventory class.
We see that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then as a buyer, I am now what? What am I doing? Am I now looking for realtors who are known in that market of condos? Am I just doing a Google search? Who am I reaching out to? How do I get in front of these kind of deals?
Really good point, Gary, because we typically thought realtors, we trade property on the MLS and we help people buy on the MLS. But just like on the commercial space, where you and I both know commercial realtors are very specialized, it's this off-market thing. There are agents that are now specialized who understand pre-construction. They understand the builders, the markets, the contracts, the market values, these very specific clauses. And I pick out these realtors all day long when I ask them about their deals, and they don't know how to answer me. And it's because these agents are fairly new, and they're actually marketing. So you should be getting a realtor who understands all these pre-construction opportunities.
Okay. I want to, anything else on this? On the buyer side, the seller side, assignments?
No, I think it makes sense for most.
Yeah, I want to touch on this one particular article that recently came out. It says more than half of GTA condo investors losing money on properties. The research from the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce and real estate research firm Urbanization found 48% of leveraged condo investors who bought pre-construction units to rent out were cash flow positive in 2022, but I think that's completely changed now in either late 2022 and in 2023. Thoughts on that? Are any of your clients in this particular situation, and what are they doing?
I am.
Yeah.
My clients are. So when people say, Randy, how do you find cash flow? I say, where do you find cash flow? And when was the last time you actually saw it? Now, I know guys like you, Gary and Chris, you find this stuff all day long, but they're in tertiary actual markets, right? Typically.
Correct.
Or you're doing short-term rentals and creative structuring of deals within our markets to take advantage of short-term opportunities. But this concept of cash flow, having income coming in after making all your monthly payments, I tell people when you're buying a condo, what you're getting is safety and security and insurance, which costs you money. My condos, they rent. I don't have to worry about the roof, the windows, the elevators or anything. And I have peace of mind. And my property is getting paid down by my tenants. So the concept of cash flow in condos, it hasn't existed for 7 years.
You know what?
Years.
You know what? I'll tell you, I'm very, very happy to hear you say that. I'm very glad to hear you say that. And not because, we love cash flow, but because it's reality, right? And I think for us, we have a lot of people come to us and they want cash flow, but wait, I want to be in Toronto and I need something to cash flow, and it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen.
We're doing real talk with Gary.
Real talk, and I'm glad to hear you say it.
And they want to know where the actual cash flow is.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's why I'm shifting out of my condos. I'm trading up some condos to buy ground-oriented real estate now. They're the upside. And Gary, you're the king of optimizing ground-oriented real estate. So condo investors, like I told you, they're starting out with these smaller asset classes. When you're a young person, you're not going to buy your first bungalow in Toronto now. It's 1.2, 1.3 million.
Yeah.
You're still buying that condo for 500,000-600,000. And in 5 years from now, when it's worth 800, you get your 300,000 equity and go and buy your first house.
Right.
So that's what you're doing now. So you're actually looking in Toronto to now buy detached homes. Is that what you're kind of looking into?
My personal strategy,
commercial. Yeah.
I can tell you what I've just done. I bought a bungalow right next to Yorkdale Mall. It's my pride and joy. I learned about construction. I was a general contractor the hard way. Boy, I respect my general contractors so much more now after I've done it. But buying ground-oriented real estate, I knew what was happening in Toronto. I saw the homelessness problem, the lack of affordability in Toronto. My family is very close to that industry. My wife works as an officer for the city of Toronto in the shelter business. So I'm seeing what's happening. So I know the value of lots in Toronto.
Right.
So I said, you know what? I'm going to bite the bullet and buy one. And we had the garden suite bylaw that was going to be passed. So when I did my legal second suite, I gutted it and rebuilt all the services ready at the back of the house for the garden suite. Lo and behold, City Toronto Council just passed under Bill 23 a fourplex plus a garden suite, up to 5 units on a lot in Toronto.
Is that what it is? Fourplex plus the garden suite.
4 plus 1.
Wow.
Can you imagine? And this is no more yellow belt. What that means is all those really rich foo-foo shishi neighborhoods preventing, I don't want that in my actual backyard. This is the government pushing back and saying, no, you want to be in Toronto? Get used to it. We're doing multiplexes here. We have a problem with affordable housing. We need to get these people roofs over their heads.
And I agree with it, right? I think it's a good move. I think it allows now for, we'll say affordable housing, but it definitely allows for additional housing.
Additional housing,
right? And how long is it really going to take? But at least it's something, right? Moving in the right direction.
But it has to. It has to go there. But really, you said it right. It's available. What would you say? Additional housing.
Right.
It's not affordable housing.
No.
Come on.
Right. And I mean, like, what are you going to rent each of these units out for? Like a 1-bedroom, maybe a 2-bedroom you can squeeze out of it for what? $2,000 to $2,700 a month for some of these. So is that what you're planning to do with your particular unit that you have now?
Well, okay. So I just came back from one of the largest conferences, which is the multifamily conference. And
how did you like that, by the way? How did you like it?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. Yeah. And what happened here was I had a transformation in thought, and I realized you've got all these investors chasing apartment buildings, and the reality is Toronto hasn't built any in the last 15 years.
Right.
Only now within the last 5, the most wealthiest funds that are all equity, no debt service, are able to build these things. So how does an individual investor like me, a first-generation Canadian, participate in this? Well, you know what?
Right.
I can buy 5 or 6 condos. That's my sixplex. Okay. So this is where the rental stock has shifted. 20 years ago, you had a shot to buy your first apartment building for $1.6-2 million. That's what I did. I did that when I was 30 years old, and I thank God that I did it.
Right.
But today, to get your foot in the door in the GTA market to buy a 6-plex, an 8-plex, a 12-plex, you're talking millions, $2, $3, $4 million. You're not doing it. You know what? You start by buying one $600,000 condo, a second one for $700,000, a third one for $750,000. Before you know it, you've got a portfolio of condos, 5, 6, 7 of them, and they're not all in one building, and you've become a multi-unit owner. So this is a new opportunity. And now with the new multiplex zoning bylaw, 1 bungalow, your family saves up. I bought my first bungalow when I was 46 years old. And that's how I started. And I put a lot of money in it. And now I can possibly build it into 5 units. That's how that's the new multiplex owner.
Right.
In Ontario.
So, so to summarize, you're going to now sell off some of your condos, and now you're going to get some ground units, bungalows, and convert these things into multi-units. I mean, I think it's a great strategy.
Yeah,
I do. You're essentially going from green homes to red hotels, essentially.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. All right. Anything else on this particular topic?
You're talking about condominiums, or we're talking about
condominiums,
affordable housing?
Yeah, affordable housing.
Let's talk about that.
Because then I want to get into who are some of the top condo builders out there. So we'll touch on that after this.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about affordable housing. And this is the part of the business that realtors don't really talk about, because we're in the business of commission income. We want to sell things and make our checks. But the reality is we need to provide more accessible housing for families to start off in Toronto. How does the federal government expect us to have 1 million new immigrants and have them work in our restaurants, in our cafes, in our schools, clean our floors, do everything else, and yet drive 2 hours into work to make $16 an hour? It doesn't work. It's a broken model. So affordable housing is the next model of building. And what I'm working now is I'm working on structuring the capital stack with developers to allow them to build affordable housing and to participate in that.
Well, what's affordable housing to you, and what's your definition of affordable housing? Affordable
housing in Ontario right now, under the MLI Select Financing Program for CMHC, which is for apartment building owners, is, I believe, the average rental income for a 2-bedroom in that marketplace.
Okay.
I believe it's 60 to 70% of that. So right now in Toronto, you're looking at about $2,400 for a 2-bedroom. Okay. That's affordable housing.
Is it that low? The MLI program, right? Are they suggesting 60 to 70%? It's not 80%?
Somewhere
around
those kinds of ratios.
But it's not market.
It's definitely not market rents. Yeah. If you can, mind you, there's negative pushback on rents right now. I don't know if you guys actually know this. People are saying, oh, rents are going up and they're skyrocketing.
Okay, talk to us.
Do you realize in 2023, we have the largest condominium completions in history in the city of Toronto? Why? Over the last 3 years during COVID, we've had construction delays after construction delays. There is a glut happening. So it's a fast and furious market of a lot of supply.
All at the same time.
Right.
So there's negative pushback on all those rents right now.
Yeah, right here in this article here, it says news that a record number of new GTA condo units will be ready for occupancy in 2023. nearly 32,000, according to research firm Urbanation.
It is a fast and furious competitive market. I'm looking to rent my bungalow right now. I'm seeing that competitive market. I'm seeing how I have to sharpen my pencil, lower my asking rents. And it's a very different tenant composition. The type of tenants that you can rent to,
Right.
their income levels, they're usually brand new in the country. The traditional underwriting of those tenants, looking at their histories, isn't there anymore.
You're right.
Do you know what the typical number is each year? I don't know what that number is. Saying what, 32,000 coming on this year.
The highest we've ever seen. In previous years, it was 10,000, 12,000.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be more than 32,000.
By
what they're
year's
saying
end.
there does not include all the pre-construction homes in the 905 regions coming to actual completion. There's a lot of product coming online, Gary.
Yeah.
And it's extremely
And
tough.
I think we're kind of starting to see some of that as well, too. Like, you had a lot of investors that wanted to flip last year. A lot of investors that want to flip. And because the numbers didn't make sense, they end up having to hold these properties
Right.
and then rent them out. Right. So there's, I don't know what that number looks like, but that's an additional.
more. There's
I know many investors that I know within our own pool of investors that are doing that.
Or just having added additional units, right? Even that. So now you're adding additional units, right? What did the city say, Peterborough? What did they say? They said 80. They're just this year up to now. I think they're working on 80 permits, right? You remember that?
So
Yeah, something like that. And that's just I think that was April.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that was from the last webinar.
That was one of the last ones that we did. So,
Right.
and that's a tertiary market, right? So now you've got all of this other completion coming in at the same time. So and I'll be honest with you, I see it as well. I see the exact same thing because I've got a couple of properties that I've got that are vacant, and I'm just not getting the same traffic.
Absolutely.
I'm not getting the same traffic, and the pool of renters is just the they can't. I mean, I got to be careful here with the landlord tenant board, right? But they're just let's just say they're not they may not be the ideal candidates,
True.
right? That's
the caliber.
Yeah. Well, realistically, the income level isn't there.
Well, yeah, this is what's happening. So when you bring in all these new immigrants into the country, they're looking for housing. They don't have a credit bureau. They've been here for 3 months. They only have $40,000 in the bank, and they want you to trust them with your $700,000 asset.
Sure.
And it's 4 of them and their friends living together. It's not a nuclear family where typically mom's cleaning the floors, kids are going to school, dad's fixing things around the house, he's cutting the grass. It's four 20-year-olds that are working, living hard, have no desire to clean the kitchen or the floor. So it's a different dynamic that's happening when it comes to tenants.
Yeah. You know what I think it is? I think rents have gone up so fast and so much that the guys who would tend to move, the ones that have the incomes, they might tend to move, but they're not. They're staying put.
Bingo.
And the ones that are still circling, these are the guys that, they're still circling for a reason, right?
And let's just talk about this hidden market that people don't even realize. The government, I don't know if you know this, the city of Toronto declared a state of emergency this month.
Okay.
The state of emergency saying our homeless problem has gotten out of control. There's a homeless epidemic in the GTA right now.
Have you seen Vancouver?
Is it like crazy?
Oh, there's a whole documentary on it. Vancouver is a shit show.
Yeah. Well,
It's bad.
I'm sure the States, everything, everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
And we think it's only apartment building owners. But guess who's subsidizing half these tenants who aren't paying? Guess who's subsidizing them?
Well, you are.
Our investors with their tenants and not paying them rent.
Sure.
We have become the news subsidizer of tenants that aren't paying rent. And it's not being spoken about in the media. How many clients do you know that aren't collecting rent from their tenants? They're out there.
Many. And here's here's what we're starting to see as well too, is that some of these investors are starting to sell their properties and move to other province or move out of country. That's what we're seeing.
And we know that.
I literally just talked to one this morning. I'm like, hey, reached out to him. Like, what are you up to? How's the family? How's everything going? How's your investments? He goes, oh, I sold all my investments here.
Was it Matt? Was it?
No, it wasn't Matt. Like, I'm down in Florida right now, and I plan on staying down here for a few months out of the year, and the rents make so much more sense.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about these tenant issues.
I just want to share this quick thesis with you.
Yeah.
The capital stack has shifted. Over the last 15 years, debt has been 2 to 3%. We have now doubled that cost of debt. So as a result, the shift of debt to equity to own rental properties is no longer there.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense right now under the current rental rates to buy rental properties for rental's sake. They will negative cash flow on you. So how do we make things work now? I'm looking at this from my buyer's point of view, investor's point of view. My buyers say I have $150,000, $200,000, Randy. What do I do with it? Before it was buy a rental property for $800,000, break even, and it will eventually get better. Now it's $200,000, you're negative for the next 5 years or 7 years. I don't know. So now there's a shift. So I'm focusing on working with other larger developers that are using debt service free equity and buying into their projects. So this is the new way, restructuring the capital stack, participating in larger players that are getting government financing, zero cost money and equity at zero cost, and buying into those projects and participating with them.
And what are these projects?
Well, these are builders and developers that are typically non-prospectus investments, which are typically allowing investors to participate with them. So there are some well-known names out there, like Graybrook. Ever heard of them?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're a player that allows you to buy into their condominium developments with some of the biggest players in this country, like Tridel, like Fernbrook, and others. And the ROI speaks for themselves. And the builders take on their biggest risk in development is that development risk. They take on that risk and allows a small guy with small as $25,000 to play in that pie.
Okay, so that's what you're kind of focused on as well too. So you're doing some land stuff, and then you're also allowing these larger players and builders to then be able to leverage your funds to give you an ROI where you don't have to deal with tenant hits.
I'm working
headaches.
Exactly. So my investors who are smaller, who have $200,000, it's a different conversation nowadays. Before it was, let's get you in a pre-con home, let's get you into a pre-con condo. Now, and let's get that $600,000 in debt, and let's get you qualified. But that debt has now gotten so expensive now. It's like, let's just invest that 200 in something. Let's see where we can get you 25% a year on that 200.
Yeah, I think it's a good move, and I mean, some of our investors have moved into that space as well too, with the other side of our business, which is deep pockets and private lending, and it's just a great way to open up additional doors for investors who. Look, here's the way I always look at it. I think it's great to get into a property in the beginning. That's where you really build the wealth, and then that lending is where you kind of create that cash flow.
And we as brokers can now participate in this space by bringing land and development opportunities to these players in private equity and on the money raising side. So we understand development, land, and upside. Let's start bringing those deals to players who have the money, because there's a lot of money sitting on the sideline seeking ROI.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Let's shift into the last topic, which is who are some of the top builders out there? Who, whether it be the top 3 or 4 that you like, that you've invested in. If somebody's listening and they want to invest in condos, who do you think those builders are?
There was a list that I printed up, and I have to use this list. But okay, the gold standard in our industry is Tridel.
Okay.
We all know this. Tridel, they built the most number of condos, the gold standard. I love Concord City Place.
Okay.
Concords are wonderful for me.
What about Daniels?
Daniels, wow. How they've changed the landscape for first-time buyers. Their first-time buyer program is amazing. They've allowed people to enter into the space and buy their first space with as small as 5% down.
They're doing 5%. They're doing 5%.
5% for their first home program.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? And they're actually coaching people on financial literacy. If we think about it, what doesn't stop people from buying their first house is the money. It's the financial discipline of understanding how to use their current money to shift it to become a homeowner. You're not going out on Friday nights every night for the next 6 weeks.
Sure.
You're going out once or twice a month on a Friday night and saving all your party money for this down payment for this place you're buying in 3 years. It's a different mentality about how we spend our money.
It is. It really is. You're right.
So what advice then would you give somebody that is thinking about getting into the market for the first time, whether it be their first home or whether it be their first investment property? What's that advice you'd give them?
You got to be listening to the Real Talk with Gary.
The plug.
Because Gary's gotten guys like me and Chris talking the real deal, but what's happening in the marketplace. So you need to educate yourself. Do not buy blindly.
Right.
Spend a few months, read a few books, watch some smart people, go to some launches, learn about the different products out there, because the market changes, I think, every 4 months. Every quarter, the market shifts. Market shifts into buyer market, seller market, incentives and opportunities. Understand those trends. But what you need to be working on day in and day out is, do you have that money mindset? Are you putting money aside every single month? Are you working on your RRSP? Are you talking with your CPA about how do you save that $15,000, $20,000 in tax this year? Are we doing all that homework, all that stuff that is in the background to get you home ready? That's the most important stuff. Working closely with your financial planner and your mortgage broker. They're just as a part of this team as your real estate broker.
Yeah.
So that sounds a lot like discipline to me.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's like going to the gym and lifting that weight.
Yeah.
Being a homeowner it's a different way of spending your money, managing your money, and becoming a really smart person with your money.
Yeah. You know, when I first got into it in 2008, I did it because this is the switch that happened in my head was this. I have no other choice because I was going to be left behind. And I think if you get into that mindset of like, if I don't get into real estate, then I'm going to be working for the rest of my life. That was it. And I was like, okay, now I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to do whatever I need to do. If I got to beg, borrow, steal, I'm going to do it. And that's what I did.
But why did you choose real estate in particular as opposed to, I don't know, anything else out there?
Yeah, good question. So here's the reason why I chose real estate. Was because it was one of the only things that I realized and saw that was outpacing inflation. Number two, it had bailed me out 3 times of all the debts that I accumulated over the last 8-9 years. 3 times. And I was like, if this thing bailed me out that many times, what if I had one more? Now, I didn't have the education yet, but I knew that there was something in this real estate. And I always remember my dad saying this, man, if I had some money, I'd buy some land. Man, if I'd had some money, I'd buy some land. And he always said that, but he never did it. And I'm like, there must be something there. And I was like, I'm going to start buying land. And that's what it is. It's not so much the house itself. That's depreciating if you don't look after it. It's the land. Yeah. That's where the value is. And that's where I think people need to understand. You need to buy land. That's what they call them, landlords. Lords of the land.
Well, so before, people would be buying the house. You know, the land, came with the house, but you'd be buying the house. And now it's the opposite, right? You're buying the land, and who cares about the house? Right? I mean, you care about it, but really you're buying the land, right? And you know this because you can take that same trashy bungalow, right? Not your bungalow. Your bungalow is really nice. but grandma's bungalow in, I don't know, name your place, Timbuktu, Ontario, and it's going to cost you $250, $350, whatever, $400, and you drop that thing downtown Toronto. Different ball game. Same house.
Yep.
Different land. Totally different ball game, right?
Yeah.
So you're really buying the land.
Yeah, go drop that in Manhattan.
And go drop it in Manhattan,
See
right along
changes.
Central Park or whatever. Yeah. Totally different.
You go up a couple million, right? Randy, listen, we're getting close to the end here. A couple more questions. We're going to wrap it up. What's the biggest mistake you've made?
Randy don't make mistakes. What are you talking about?
The biggest mistake I've made.
Or mistakes. Like what were some of the things you look back, man, I should have done this, or man, I should have done that, and how you got out of it?
This actually came in a joint venture. And the biggest mistake I made was trusting $50,000 of my investor money in the joint venture for which I didn't have control. Okay. What ended up happening out of that deal was, so I was doing larger joint venture deals where we were pooling capital as deposit funds to go tie up buildings. The moment you pool funds with somebody else and you're not in control of those funds, we as real estate brokers, we have control of our clients' transactions. When we become a client, Another broker controls that money. And the biggest mistake was I learned I didn't have control of the broker on the deal, and we lost that $50,000.
You lost the 50.
We lost the 50 clear.
Wow.
Yeah. I've also seen, so joint ventures and partnerships can be beautiful things, but I've seen them go sideways very quickly if they're not managed properly. So working with partners is a very important craft and skill to go and build wealth. And it's very easy to make a folly on those kinds of deals.
All right. Best day of your life?
The best day of my life? When I married my beautiful wife.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
2007.
You don't have a choice.
And
you
I
have
hope
to.
she's listening. I have to say this as a father,
Yeah.
as a man of God, as someone who's proud to be who I am. If someone asks me, what is the one thing that has made me who I am today? What is the one thing that helped me to win? It's picking the right mother of my children and the right woman of my home.
Yeah.
And she has built the rock steady, solid foundation for me to win, my children to be beautiful and happy. And I'm so grateful for this woman.
Yeah. Listen, man, what do they say? For every strong man, there's a stronger woman behind him. Right? So Randy, if anybody wants to learn more about you, how can they get a hold of you?
Randy at condoinvest.ca. Reach out to me at any time.
Awesome. Chris, anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
No, but it's been really a pleasure hanging out. You got some good stories. I'm sure lots more to tell. And I really appreciate. And for all the listeners, I think we had some good insight today. And I don't know, who knows what direction that the listeners are going, and they may totally go and against your grain right now and just jump into condos, but at least they have some background. At least they've got some knowledge now from you, and they can go and make their own decision, right?
Yeah.
So like you said, just educate yourself, right?
Thank you. And let's just talk about this condo thing. I don't care what you buy. If you're in your 20s, buy as much as you possibly can. I told this to a younger guy, but how do we get the money, Randy? How do we structure the financing? I said, I don't care. Talk to your mortgage broker, build your team. I don't care what you buy.
Yeah, by hook or by crook.
Buy as much as you possibly can in your 20s and your 30s, and you're on the right track.
That is true.
All right, we're going to finish it with that. Buy as much as you can.
Yeah, that's
beg,
true.
borrow, steal. Randy, awesome having you in here. Chris, thanks for co-hosting.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to everybody next week. Take care.
All right, bye.
Thanks for listening to today's show with Gary Hibbert. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with your host on Instagram at Gary Hibbert. Until next time, stay mindful and remember, you don't have to be great to start. Just start, and you'll be on the path to being great.